Hello everyone, Adrian here. Yes, I know it's been a hot minute, and I do apologize for that. I had a lot of stuff going on, so I was working the ferry service at Bohemia again this year, and that was a lot of fun. I was also still working some hours at my job, and then work got a little crazy. And then more recently, I did have some health issues that started last week, but it seems like I'm on the road to recovery. So yeah, now I'm here and we are going to be doing a Gothic literature review. I know, it's been a very long time since last I've done that, but I'm very happy to do it again and I have a very exciting selection to share with you. So I'll give you a little backstory as to how I discovered this gem that I'm going to be sharing with you today. So when Kenny and I first started dating, we lived in the Yakima area of Washington State, which as you guys know is where we're from originally. And it's a desert. It is absolutely a desert. And for the longest time, we actually did have a place called Borders Books. So for those of you who don't know, Borders was kind of like a Barnes & Noble, but instead of Starbucks, it had a Seattle's Best coffee stand. So we were really lamenting about how much we wish that Borders was still around at the time that we first started dating, because we really wanted to have our first date at a bookstore cafe. We wanted to take the time to browse around for books and buy each other the books that the other picked out, and then hang in the cafe for a snack and a coffee drink. Well, coffee for me, but tea for Kenny, because he will absolutely not touch coffee. So 7 years later, and that first date idea finally came to fruition. Kenny and I are currently living near the Seattle area, but we didn't want to go to any old Barnes & Noble. As much as I enjoy Barnes & Noble and going there and just basking in the vibe of a bookstore cafe, I think we were wanting to go to a place that was a little more unique, singular, and also kind of supporting a small business. So one weekend, Kenny and I were up on Whidbey Island, and we came to find that the bookstore that we frequented and were very fond of when we lived on Whidbey Island was expanded into a bookstore cafe. And this place is called the Book Rack, in case you guys are familiar with it. So we decided to have our bookstore coffee date, finally, last summer. So Kenny picked out a book, and I bought it for him, and then I picked out a book, and he bought it for me, and it was a really lovely experience, and I'm so glad that we finally were able to do that. So I'm an absolute sucker for an anthology of Gothic stories from the Victorian era, so I just had to get this. Plus, I came to find that it was gorgeously illustrated, and I thought it would be a lovely anthology to share with you. I also took the time of narrating little passages from these stories and showing you the gorgeous illustrations too. I thought that would be kind of fun. So, let's get into it. But now there began to be seen, far up the shore, a little flicker of something light-colored, moving to and fro with great swiftness and irregularity. Rapidly growing larger, it too declared itself as a figure in pale, fluttering draperies, ill-defined. There was something about its motion which made Parkins very unwilling to see it at close quarters. Parkins, who is a professor of ontography at Cambridge University, goes on a golfing holiday on the east coast of England. Even joking about ghosts makes Parkins just a little uncomfortable, even though he doesn't believe in ghosts. That's interesting. During dinner at the Globe Inn, an archaeological colleague of his asks for assistance in looking over the ruins of a Templar preceptory as a potential dig site. The following day, after a while, he comes across a very old bronze whistle. As he inspects it in his room later, he finds it has a very mysterious Latin inscription carved upon it, reading Qui est iste qui uenit, which translates to, "Who is this who is coming?" What happens when he blows the whistle? Terrifying visions that are closer to reality than he would want to comprehend. I turned to the east corner, and there a black shadow fell on the snow, but when I came again into the moonlight, there were the little footmarks going up to the fells.
It was a bitter cold, so cold that the air almost took the skin off my face as I ran. But I ran on, crying to think how my poor little darling must be perished and frightened.
An old nursemaid, Hester, tells the children of a child she once looked after many years ago a tale of a phantom child that haunted the moors of Northumberland. Hester was 18 when she was employed by the family of Miss Rosamond, a 4 or 5-year-old child whose parents fall ill and die suddenly. Hester will continue to care for Miss Rosamond at a manor house that the relatives of Miss Rosamond's mother, the Furnivals, reside. A secret portrait of a young woman, tiny footsteps in the snow, and a phantom lord playing the organ on stormy winter nights are all tied into a dark family secret at the old manor.
Imagine a train rushing out of the black tunnel, tearing through the night, and going about its errand of life and death without halting.
The narrator calls out from above the entrance of a tunnel to the signalman standing near the tracks below, but the signalman behaves very oddly and doesn't respond to the narrator's wish to descend to the level of the tracks safely. The ominous track has an austere atmosphere, but the narrator tries to reassure the signalman that everything's cool, everything's fine, dude. The signalman seems to respond to stimuli that isn't there, such as the ringing of a signal bell when it's not ringing, and is reluctant to disclose his apprehensions till the following day. The signalman then tells the narrator of a ghost that calls to him and appears at the tracks with odd gesticulations and body language. Shortly after these appearances, tragic deaths have followed. What is going on at this track and this strange, frightened signalman? I'll leave that for you guys to find out.
You can't begin and then stop. If you begin, you must keep on beginning. That's the truth. No rest for the wicked.
A group of friends are gathered at a tavern when a well-respected doctor, Dr. McFarlane, suddenly enters, much to the irritation of one of the friends, Fett. Turns out that Fett and Dr. McFarlane used to be students of an anatomy professor in medical school who had assigned some very unscrupulous extra work. Let's just put it that way. They were responsible for taking bodies that would later be used for dissection in classes. On one instance, Fetz recognizes a dead woman who is brought in and suspects that she was murdered, but is persuaded into keeping quiet about the incident. They cannot keep this up for long, for there is no rest for the wicked.
Look, he gasped, seizing me by the wrist, but still keeping his eyes on the distant ice, and moving his head slowly in a horizontal direction, as if following some object which was moving across the field of vision. Look! There, man, there! Between the hummocks, now coming out from behind the far one. You see her. You must see her! There, still, flying from me. By God, flying from me. And gone. He uttered the last 2 words in a whisper of concentrated agony, which shall never fade from my remembrance.
On board a Scottish whaling ship, Dr. John Ray feels the apprehension of the crew of the ship, sensitive to how anxious the crews of whaling vessels can be on long, cold voyages from previous experiences. But something else is afoot. The behavior of Captain Craigie, however, cannot be easily written off by the skeptical doctor. After getting trapped in the ice of the Arctic, the young doctor is concerned by the mental state of the captain. He's incredibly unpredictable, agitated one moment, then elated and headstrong the next. The portrait of a beautiful young woman in the captain's cabin might hold the secret to the visions that the captain and the crew are experiencing on the sheets of ice as storms approach and supplies are slowly depleted.
The world, he said, grows hourly more and more skeptical of all that lies beyond its own narrow radius, and our men of science foster the fatal tendency.
A lone hunter gets lost in the treacherous winter elements and finds temporary solace at the home of an old alchemist. After a reluctant offering of food, whiskey, and shelter, the master of the Grand House recommends that the hunter catches a ride with the mail coach to get back home to his surely worried wife. On the way to the coach stop, the faithful servant of the house who is guiding the narrator tells him the story of a horrible accident that occurred many years ago. After the servant leaves him, a mysterious coach approaches. When the narrator boards, something definitely feels amiss. It's colder on board this coach than it is outside. His fellow passengers seem a little off. Oh dear.
There may be ghosts, or there may not be. If there are, I'm not inclined to believe that they can hurt living people, except by frightening them. And for my part, I would rather face any shape of ghost than a fog in the channel when it's crowded. No. What bothered me was just a foolish idea, that's all, and I cannot tell how it began, nor what made it grow until it turned into a certainty.
An old sea captain has inherited the home of a doctor friend of his, whose wife died many years ago under sudden and mysterious circumstances. In the master bedroom, the captain discovers a box containing the top half of a skull. What follows will shake the seasoned, rational, and skeptical sea captain to his core. So, most of the stories that were featured in this anthology I had not read before, so I was very thrilled to discover some new stories in the Victorian Gothic genre. The only story I had read already was the first one, which was "O Whistle and I'll Come to You, My Lad," but it was really nice to revisit that one. It's a good one. I would say that my favorite story was Captain of the Polestar. So anyone who is familiar with the work of Sir Arthur Conan Doyle knows he's a renowned and gifted storyteller, but this story really struck me on a new level. This was written and published before he exploded in popularity when he started his Chronicles of Sherlock Holmes. It has a lot of creeping suspense, but not in the annoyingly gaslighting way that M.R. James sometimes does with his ghost stories. It just hits different. And it really put us in the narrator's perspective, and the story unfolds quite exquisitely. Plus, there was a little bit of a love story kind of woven in, which I really appreciated. What can I say? I'm a sucker for a ghostly love story. And if you haven't come across this story yet, I highly recommend it. It's a wonderful, wonderful treat. I also really enjoyed The Old Nurse's Tale and The Signalman, and they were excellent parts of this collection that added great intrigue to the category of ghost stories from the Victorian era. So, yay, I really liked those. So, that was a lot of fun. I'm really glad that I was able to finally finish this guy recently. The last several months have been really crazy busy for me, guys. I'm so sorry, but I'm really glad that I was able to find some time to sit down and finish this book and share it with you guys because I knew you would enjoy it. And my goal, hopefully, amid the chaos of the next couple months, I will find some more time to read. I'm especially excited about Sarah Penner's upcoming book, The Amalfi Curse, which I'm really, really excited for. It sounds perfect. And I really loved The Lost Apothecary, and I really loved The London Seance Society, so I'm really looking forward to how this one's going to be. So I will definitely be reviewing that once I finish reading it. So yes, like I said, the next several months are going to be a little chaotic. So first of all, next week I'm getting a new tattoo, which that'll be some dopamine that I desperately need. And then after that, I am going to be doing my promotional photo shoot for my next show, which is going to be on July 12th. It's also going to be at the Rendezvous in Seattle, so I will be posting more details about that as they come. So once again, thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate your patience and you sticking with me. I know it's been a couple of months since last I've posted, but, life got a little crazy and I had to take a little break. So I appreciate the understanding and how sweet and lovely you guys have been. Also, thank you so much for 20,000 followers. That's amazing. I know that a lot of the new followers came over from Dr. Justin Sledge's channel, so if you are among my audience today, lovely to have you. Welcome. I'm very happy to have you here, and thank you so much for the support. I'm thinking maybe this weekend, so like the second to last weekend of February, I'm probably going to do a little live stream to celebrate 20,000 followers. I'll post more details about that as well. So with all that being said, thank you so much to everyone for watching. I really appreciate you being here, and thank you so much to my patrons for your support every single month. I really appreciate it. I literally can't do what I do without you guys. And make sure you hit that bell for notifications so that you can get notified every time I post a video about absinthe, the goth subculture, gothic literature, goth music, all that fun stuff. And you're all amazing. I love you, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!